Hello, my name is Leroy Blevins. Welcome to Mysteries and Histories. In this episode here is going to be a two-part series on this episode. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk about solving the JFK assassination. Now, I've been getting emails from people and stuff, and they ask me questions like, what kind of details do I do? What do I look for? And how do I come about all the evidence I uncovered? And also, other questions as well and stuff. So I'll decide to go ahead and make this video here, to explain what I did and what I looked for and everything else to uncover the photographic evidence and how I solved most of the case, even though people says the case hasn't been solved. But yes, it is by the research I've done, okay, because I have the evidence to show how many gunmen there were and stuff. Now, I know a lot of people probably disagree with me in that because a lot of people have their own opinion stuff, which I understand that as well. But also, you have to look, when I do research stuff, I look at my research, I look at other people's research, and I understand and keep an open mind, I always do. But when it comes to the assassination of JFK, okay, this is one hard case to work on, okay, because there's too many theories out there and there's too many false claims out there. So that's why I'm going to go ahead and make this video here so it don't be a two-part series. It's going to be a two-part series. But, to answer some questions and stuff and show evidence and how I pieced it all together and what to look for and everything else. And hopefully, after you get done, if you watch this video number one and watch video number two after it, maybe this will help you understand as well if you're trying to look into the case, okay, if you want to do research on the case stuff, maybe the information you'll get in these two videos will help you as well in looking into the case yourself if you like to. Now, what a lot of people don't understand is, we're going to get right into it right now. What a lot of people don't understand is, there actually, when you look at a case like this, especially JFK assassination, there has to be a lot of things that you have to look at and mark down and, have facts about this case as well. And you have to look at this. If you don't look at this, then you're just going to get lost in the case because, you hear people say this, you hear people say that. Okay? So when I started this case, what I did was I looked for certain things and I mark it down so I keep this in mind. So I keep this always in mind and keep this in front of me when I look at this and look at that, see if this is a possibility or not a possibility. Let me show you an example. Okay, here's an example. If you look at this and you place the X right here, okay, when you're showing a map like this and you're going to say, well, the assassin was here, so we're going to take shots here, there, like Daltech's building, County Records building, even the courthouse building right over here, or even, Daltech's Texas School Book Depository, excuse me, or anywhere of the Pelagora here, or the south side of Pelagora, or the overpass stuff. You can line up all these shots, even behind a picket fence. You can line up all these shots you want, and it's always going to come out with the same results. This is why I don't put too much faith into the tests they've done over the years on this case, because they're using one stationary car, using one stationary subject, nothing in the surroundings or anything else. And anywhere you take this shot, yeah, they're going to say, well, see, my shot can make it. Yeah, when you got a stationary car and you have nothing in your way and stuff. But when I look at this case, I have to look at this case differently than the way everybody else looks at it. And here's why I look at it. When I look at a case like this, okay, this is what I see, and this is what I keep in mind as I'm viewing this case and as I'm going over this case. This is the way I look at it, okay? I'm looking at the people in the surroundings, the other vehicles, you got the follow-up car, you got people in different locations, you got trees in their locations, you have lampposts in their locations, okay? So when we take these, whoever wants to figure out taking these shots, you would actually have to have a map like this, because if you use an individual map where they just have the one single car and you make the car stationary, you're not going to get the answers you're hunting for. So I kept this in mind as I was doing my investigation to the JFK assassination. And it also helps me out. Plus, I also look at this fact as well. When we look at the JFK assassination, always keep in mind as well, that I always kept in mind, is there was 6 people in the car. Not just 2 people, not just JFK and Governor Connally, because we had 6 people total in the car. That's another thing I kept in mind when I did my research. Also kept in my mind that the Elm Street is a downgrade road and it goes downward and everything else is more hillside up on it. So I have to keep this in mind as well. So when I pinpoint these shots and when I find these shots that, they've been talking about or anything else, I want to make sure they all lined up. Okay. So I keep this in mind that the Elm Street's downgrade, 6 people in the car. Now I also have to keep in consideration and think too as well, as you see here. As you see, I did little outlines of people on it, with my paints, just trying to trace around. But anyway, we have to understand that JFK is sitting in a limo as well, and there's people standing up on both sides of JFK's limo. So we have to keep that in mind as well when we're doing an investigation like this. Okay, so we got people standing up here, one man, person here, another person here, another person here, another person here. Someone's close together, someone's scattered apart. But we have to keep that in mind too. And remember, the car's in motion. We got to keep that in mind. And we got on in a downgrade as well. We have to keep that in mind. So all these things we have to keep in mind when we do an investigation. If you're just going to look at a stationary car, nobody else in the surroundings, and just 2 people in the car or just 1 person in the car, all you're going to do is get false information. You're not going to get the accurate information that you're looking for. You're just always going to get false information. That's why when I did my investigation, these are all things I looked at when I took on this case. I had to look at this stuff first. Just like when I was looking at the hillside there, okay, again, I had to keep in mind, if I'm staying on ground level here, remember this is a 3-lane road here. We have the grass area in between Elm Street and Main Street. We have another sidewalk over here. And then we got a hillside, which is a slope and stuff like that. So any shots are going to be coming downward, not upward. I mean, straight ahead. They all would have to come upward if you're going from the grassy knoll area. Okay, so we have to keep this in mind. So I had to look at this. So these are images and stuff that I made up right there, as you see here, these drawings and stuff like that. Okay, I did these so I get more input and facts about the case when I first started doing this. Okay, then after I started, investigating this part here first, okay, while I was waiting for images and films and everything else to come into my house, what I did was I started looking at certain things like, reading over testimonies, reading other people's books and stuff, and everybody's pinpointing the grassy knoll, the picket fence area, and everything else. So I mark all this stuff down. So when I got the evidence, like the films and the image and stuff, I know what to look for. But when I marked all that down, and when I did get the films and images and stuff, and I started, researching them and stuff like that, I didn't find none whatsoever. But when I started receiving the images and stuff like that, what I did was I start colorizing the black and white images, and there's a reason why I did that. And I also want to show you this too, because I want to show you how much time it takes to do something like this. Okay, here's like the Mormon photo. Okay, when I colorized the Mormon photo, okay, the reason why I colorized the Mormon photo, because right now we're looking at a black and white image, which we're not going to be able to tell the difference between the shadows or, like tree lines or anything else like that when we're seeing a black and white image. Okay, what's lurking in the shadows as well. So what I did was I colorized it so I could pull out more details from this image. Okay, and when I colorize the image, people think, you just go in there, start doing this, doing that, and all of a sudden it's colored. No, it takes a lot of time. It's a long process. Okay, just like if I was coloring the grass area here, I would have to go back and forth like this when I colorize it. And the reason why I go back and forth, I'll do the colorized image. I'll make a double image of this, and then I colorize one image and just flip back and forth to make sure nothing was added, only the color that's in the surroundings and the color that's on the people, the skin color, the tones, color of the limo, the street, the chrome, color of the tires, the brushes, the tree areas, the picket fence area, the trees, separate everything and the colors and stuff. And the idea was I actually did flip back and forth every time I color a certain location just to make sure nothing was added when I was coloring. And 2 is to make sure that that whole section is the same color as well, just like right here. Then when I colorize the images, okay, that's why it's a long process. People don't understand it's a long process. I'll probably spend on a Mormon photo, I'll probably spend about anywhere from probably about 15 to 16 hours to colorize it. Okay, now you can colorize some images, it won't take that long, but when you're colorizing it, so you can make sure all the details are there and everything lines up and you ain't adding nothing to it, it does take a longer process, especially when you're doing it by hand. Because basically all I was doing, I had my color program, and you have to color and you have to zoom in certain sections so you can separate the colors and everything else. And then you have to go in there. I got another program which I designed myself, another program where I'll push, right click, push it, and it'll just slide up the area that's all this color here. So you have this whole same color in this location here, same thing over here. But then you have the darker section up here, which after it gets done colored in, you can see where the shadows are and it actually darkens itself. So that's a program I designed a long time ago to make sure I do the colorization right on these images and everything else, and make sure nothing gets added into it, which takes a long process. But like I said, that's how I colorize. I got to go back and forth, back and forth. Now, another thing, when I start getting the films and images in, okay, other people don't understand this, but I had to. I had to figure this out, and I had to do this, and I had to get the make and model of each camera that was used that day in the JFK assassination. I had over 150 cameras, I think, total that I bought out of my own pocket. There's only 2 cameras I got left because most of them got destroyed when I was moving from Cincinnati, Ohio, down here to Kentucky. And then a lot of them I had to sell and stuff like that so I could try to reimburse some of the money that I lost during this research. And that's another thing, key fact too, you want to look at. If you're going to do research in this case, it's going to run into thousands of dollars. It's going to cost you a lot of money. But anyway, I had to get the cameras because I remember when I get the film and stuff, I had to see what type of camera it is. I had to see what kind of type of film it is. Then because when I analyze a film, then I'm going to know whose hands it's in, just like Mr. Zapruder's camera. I went ahead and bought another copy of the camera, same kind of camera he had and what he was using. Studied how it was filmed, you know, the zoom lens, on focusing on how close that he had his lens when he was filming and stuff, and he actually had it on full zoom, where it brought in everything real close. Now, if you had on standard zoom, which was way down, you would have a smaller picture than what we see in a Zapruder film itself. But we know he had it on full zoom, okay? And when he was recording, that's another reason how I found out he was filming. Plus, I figured out, you know, how to find out how they load the film, what type of film it used. Like me doing this process and doing this, just like right here, the button switch where you run, and if you pull it down any further, it's going to go in slow motion. So that's actually how he filmed. His film was in slow motion. Okay, so I had to know all this information if I was going to analyze this film. And then I turn around and I, you know, start doing more research and stuff like that. And it come to find out that the Zapruder film is actually a double-sided film. You got side A and side B. And this is how it looked. That's why there's a breaking point between frame 132 and 133, because you had to turn the film around, re-spool it, and then wind it back up again and start filming the whole assassination. Okay, because you got 500 frames on one side, 500 frames on the other side, which is a total of 1,000 frames. Okay, you got 50 feet of film, which is 25 feet on each side. Okay, and then when it's done, developed, they got to cut down the center here between the 2 frames here, so they can, you know, have one complete reel. So see, there's a lot of things you have to look at. And this, you know, when I'm explaining this to you, you have to realize that there's a lot of stuff you have to get in depth to. Okay, like I said, when you analyze films, when you analyze images and stuff, just like I said, the Zapruder film, you have a double-sided film. You got frames 001 through the same 0 through 500. And then on the second side, side B is 501 frame all the way to 1,000, or 25 feet apiece on each side, 500 frames on each side. So it's a total of 1,000 frames, or 50 feet long, when you splice it and you place it together. Okay, so see, I had to know all this information. So when I analyze the Zapruder film, or the Orville Nix film, or any other films, or even the images themselves, like Mormon's photo, okay, I had to buy the exact same camera. She had a Polaroid, so I can know exactly how to operate and stuff, how long it takes for the film to get developed and stuff when it gets printed out and everything else. I have to go this one step at a time, which runs into a lot of money, as I pointed out. But I have to look at these facts, just like when I was looking at the vehicle facts, as I point out. Okay, I look at it this way. Nope, not this way. Let me pull up the other image here. Okay, let's see, right here. I look at it this way. Okay, put all people in place, cars in motion and stuff like that. Downgrade 6 people in the car. Okay, and remember, people standing along the side of the limo and stuff like that on both sides of the road. Okay, I have to look at this. Plus, I also got to look at the fact of everybody, when they do their testing stuff, they have, like I said, just the 2 subjects in the car. They had Governor Connolly looking straight ahead the whole time when they do these tests, but actually he was looking out to his right most of the time, as we see in the films. We have Mrs. Kennedy actually all the way to her right. We have Mrs. Connolly also to her right as well. So see, when you figure out shots and stuff like that, you have to look at this. But you also have to look at this. the angle of the limo as well, as you see here, because sometimes, because it's a windy road, basically Elm Street, because it comes down as soon as he makes a turn, he's turning this way, and he turns back around this way before they actually start going straight again. So you have to take this consideration as well when you do your research or when you do your testing. Like I said, so far, there's a lot of things you have to think about even before I even started researching these films and everything else. Okay, there's a lot of things we have to look at. Just like when I start analyzing the films, when I start getting the film stuff, then a lot of people will sit there and look at, well, excuse me, I got holes in my mouth because I'm still congested a little bit. Excuse me again. Excuse me, let me go ahead and take this out. Sorry, it's bugging me because I don't like keeping candy. I don't like using candy. I don't even eat candy or nothing else like that. Anyway, through frame 001 of the Zapruder film to frame 132 of the Zapruder film, it don't show JFK's limo whatsoever. So we're going to start with frame 133 because that's when JFK's limos first started. But I also did it in the first 132 frames too. Also look back and forth because I wanted to find different details. Okay, now when I analyze a film, okay, a lot of people sit there and says, well, I'll just watch the film and that's it. Not me. That's not how I analyze films. I analyze films by, okay, like frame 133, I'll go to frame 134, and I'll go back and forth. Okay, I'll go back and forth. And the reason why I go back and forth is because when I start studying, I'll study this section here, and I'll keep my eye on this section over here. Then after I do that for a minute, then I go over here and I go over here. I work in like a 1 inch by 1 inch section each at a time when I analyze the films and frames and stuff, because I go back and forth. Okay, then after I get through like about 10 frames, okay, like this, I'll get through 10 frames. All of a sudden, I'll go back and I'll start studying and watching the surroundings and the people as well. Okay, I'll start doing that back and forth quite a few times because I want to see if there's any changes or any difference in the surroundings or the people or in the cars and stuff. This is how I found the shots in the JFK assassination. If I didn't take that process and I did not do that, okay, then I would never found them shots. That's why these shots was never even found in the past, because they never took this kind of time and to look at individual frames back and forth, to see if there's any change and stuff. That's another reason why I know there wasn't no altering done to the film itself. There's a lot of people out there claims, oh no, there was altering done. No, there was no altering whatsoever when it comes to Zapruder film or any other films or any other images. Because of when I analyze a film, I had to make sure everything was in right sequence, right details, right colors, and everything else. Because if anything was altered in any way, there will be a change in color. There will be a change in this and change in that. But people want to still push that false information about the Zapruder film was altered, so people don't study this film. I study this film inside and out. A lot of people says, oh, I'll watch this film over 100 times. I've actually viewed this film itself, just this one film, over 1,000 times. Okay, it could be up to 4,000 times. I usually have everything marked that I keep in a log of how many times I've viewed a film and stuff. It could be up to 10,000 times I've viewed this film, because of the pure simple fact of it is I'm going back and forth, one frame at a time, looking at certain sections of the film and stuff. That's how you're actually supposed to analyze a film. You can't just take one frame over here, look at it, say, okay, and then go down 20 frames or 30 frames and say, okay, well, let's look at this. No, you got to do it one step at a time. You got to do it one frame at a time. That's actually how I found the gunman in the sprocket area. That's how I found the gunman. And then after I found this gunman, okay, I had to piece it all together, and I viewed it and I overlooked it, just like you see here. You see him coming down, take aim, and firing his rifle. Okay, I had to do this. Okay, I had to do this, because if I didn't do this and took this kind of information, okay, excuse me, this gunman would never have been found. But since I did my method, the way I've always analyzed films and how I go over each frame and stuff, that's how I found this gunman right here, coming down, taking his shots and reflections from the gunman on the rooftop of the county records building. Okay, these are things that we have to look at, just like when we do have the films and we do have the images. Okay, we have to look at other facts as well, just like right here. Let's see, Alt-Gen's image number 6. Okay, we're studying this and we're looking at this. Okay, when you're analyzing this, okay, so it's like this image here. This actually took me a day and a half to actually get this one completely colorized. As you see, there's a lot of details and stuff in it. But when you look at this, you're going to say, well, okay, well, I'm going to analyze this. Okay, you can't just sit there and look at a picture and say, well, I'm going to point this out, point that out, and everything else. Okay, you have to know exactly when was this image taken. No one knows that. No one has that information. No one has that information. When was this image taken? Because we got to put this stuff in time frame. We got to log this. This is property log. This is property category, and everything that's in here. Just like me, I went ahead and took this image here, and I started viewing the Zapruder film and even other films as well. And then when I sit there and just like when it came to Zapruder film, Alt-Gen took his image by frame 254 of Zapruder film. You're not going to hear this nowhere else. You're going to only hear it here. Because the reason why is because this is how much details I had to pull out. Because now when I watch this Zapruder film and I see frame 254 show up, boom, pops in my mind, Alt-Gen just took his picture. Okay, Alt-Gen just took his picture number 6. And then we go further in, and then when I go into Alt-Gen's image number 7, okay, when this is taken, it was taken at frame 394. So when I get around that, close to that 394 range, boom, I'm going to know that when this image was taken, comes in at 394. But I'm also pulling other information as well. What do I learn from 394? Well, 394, I know this. When this image was taken, manhole cover shots was not even taken yet. Okay, so when he took this image as he's going across the street, because we follow his motion now he's going across the street. When he took this image here, because he had to get on the street a little bit, but he had to, after he took it, he had to run across the other side of the road there. That's why we see in films and stuff, we see Alt-Gen over there by the Newmans, because of when he took this picture here, he was running across. Now remember, shots number 8 and 9, which was to the manhole cover, has not been taken yet, if you watch my cursor, because it wasn't, the manhole cover shots didn't happen until frame 399, 401, and the bullet ricocheting upward, frame 402. So see, this is 394. So now I got information that, okay, well, we already see the bullet hole. That's another thing that helps me out too, because now we already see the nick and the mark in the windshield. So now we know exactly when this bullet struck the windshield. And we know that when this image was taken, okay, the distraction shots was never even being fired yet. One distraction shot was already taken. That was to the curb where James Tagg was standing. So we know this image was taken right after that. But all the other shots, the other distraction shots, hasn't been fired yet. So see, this gives us more detail, because now we know how far JFK's limo was down there on Elm Street when distraction shots started being fired, and we know where these distraction shots hit. Excuse me. That's why I said, when it comes to my research and what I do, I look at a lot of things and I view a lot of stuff. Just like I said, I buy the cameras, I view the cameras, I see how they work, how they operate, how you load the film and everything else. I look at the facts of, there's people there. Elm Street's downgrade. There were 6 people in the limo, and we got to go downgrade, and there was people standing up. These are all the things I have to look at when I start analyzing films and images and stuff, so I get more details. That's why I have the information I have, because of the way I've went and done this case and worked on this case, okay? And I find a lot of stuff out. This is in part 1, and then we're going to go into part 2, and which I'm going to go into a little bit more talk and more details as well. So don't forget to tell your friends about us. Don't forget to hit the like button. Don't forget to subscribe. Share this video so other people know this information. And please watch part 2, because you're going to need to see part 2, because it's going to get more interesting. Thank you and have a pleasant day.